The movie begins with an introduction to our main characters, Katie and Sloane, two best friends eagerly anticipating their upcoming trip. Their plan is to work at a farm for a month, aiming to save enough money for a shopping spree in New York City. The promise of adventure and the allure of the big city fuel their excitement. The following morning, the girls are picked up by Katie's uncle Jason, who happens to be an FBI agent. They are to spend the night at Jason's place before heading to the farm. As they settle into this temporary home, Sloane playfully suggests that they should adopt fake names during their stay in the small town, adding a layer of intrigue and fun to their journey. And embracing the idea, they choose different names for themselves. The next day, Jason drops the girls off at a bus station where they will catch a bus to the farm. In a precautionary move, he advises them to establish a safe word system for their communications. The arrangement is simple yet crucial. They must include a code word at the end of every text message to Jason, cycling through the alphabet each day to ensure their safety. And so, the code word for that day was set as Apple. After Jason's departure, Katie and Sloane find themselves with time to spare before the bus's arrival. They decide to wait at a nearby cafe, and their presence doesn't go unnoticed as they quickly attract the attention of two local men. The encounter leads to a shared table where the women introduce themselves using their newly created fake names, and the men, in turn, reveal themselves as Jed and Lucas, claiming to be brothers. Wait, hold on. Did you subscribe to our channel? Come on guys, you're here, you're watching the video, help us out by hitting the subscribe button as it really helps out me and my team to make more videos for you guys. And now, let's get back to the recap. The narrative takes a dark turn when the two brothers, Jed and Lucas, offer Katie and Sloane a ride to their workplace on the farm. Trustingly, the young women accept the offer and climb into the brothers' blue truck, but they soon realize that their journey is veering off course. Jed deliberately misses the turn to the farm, leaving Katie and Sloane perplexed and uneasy about their situation. Their destination turns out to be the home of Jed and Lucas's mother, and the women were greeted with apparent warmth and hospitality, invited in for tea before proceeding to the farm. Inside the house, Katie receives a text message from her uncle Jason and responds with their agreed-upon safe word Apple to signal that everything is fine. However, as they consume pie and tea offered by their hosts, the women soon find their visions blurring, and in a few moments it becomes terrifyingly clear that their drinks have been drugged. Realizing something horrible is wrong, Katie and Sloane attempt to flee, but their efforts were fruitless. Jed and Lucas catch up to them, rendering them unconscious and carrying them back inside. The next day brings a horrifying reality for Katie and Sloane as they wake up chained in the middle of the woods, facing a grim and terrifying situation. Jed coldly informs them that they will now be living in these woods, providing them with basic supplies for survival, and the cruel intention is revealed as they're gonna be used for adult entertainment. The movie's tension escalates in the following scene. Katie and Sloane, now dressed and captive, encounter Jed's boss, Boris. He seizes Katie's phone and checks if anyone is aware of their whereabouts, and it was at this point that he uncovers the truth. Their used names were fabrications, and the code word in Katie's text message was a signal. Confronted with this discovery, Katie and Sloane were forced to admit the true nature of the word Apple as a safe word, revealing their desperate situation to their captors. They prepared to take a bath using makeshift showers set up in the woods. However, their fragile moment of respite is brutally interrupted by the arrival of the town's sheriff, Andrews, brandishing a gun. Shockingly, Sheriff Andrews was complicit in the human trafficking operation and has come with the intention of raping one of the women. After this horrifying incident, Sloane finds Katie visibly shaken and tries her best to comfort her in the aftermath of such trauma. Meanwhile, back in town, Katie's uncle Jason grows increasingly anxious. He notices a disturbing irregularity in Katie's text messages. The safe word remains the same as the previous day Apple, instead of progressing to the next letter in the alphabet as per their agreed upon system. This deviation from their plan signals to Jason that something is horribly wrong. Back in the woods, Jed and Lucas continue their heinous actions, welcoming another customer to their trafficking operation. This customer chooses Sloane and takes her into the trailer, deepening the nightmare that these two friends have to endure. Jason, increasingly alarmed, makes a crucial call to the farm where Katie and Sloan were supposed to work, only to discover that they never arrived. The day for Katie and Sloan grows even more horrific as another customer arrives, displaying even more disturbing behavior than the previous ones. This customer, wearing a menacing pig mask, picks Sloan and takes her inside the trailer. The next scene shows Jason arriving at Sheriff Andrews' office, where he confronts the corrupt sheriff we encountered earlier. Jason expresses his strong suspicion that his niece Katie had been kidnapped, and meanwhile, back in the woods, Sheriff Andrews has informed the kidnappers about Katie's true relation to an FBI agent and her deception regarding the safe word. Boris, the boss of the operation, coldly orders Jet to kill Katie and Sloan and dispose of their bodies. But unknown to the kidnappers, Katie overhears this chilling conversation. Simultaneously, Jason was putting pieces of the puzzle together. He visits the cafe where he had last seen Katie and Sloan. There he inquires with the barista about any details that he can remember. The barista vividly recalls the truck the two girls left in, providing Jason with a crucial lead. As dawn breaks the following day, Katie reveals to Sloan the grave danger that they were in, sharing what she overheard about their planned murder. Their situation grows even more dangerous when the kidnappers return, accompanied by one of their previous clients who was left to watch over them. Seizing the moment, Katie seduces the man, and when she gets close enough, she viciously attacks him, biting his throat with her teeth. This violent act allows the women to free themselves from their chains, but their escape doesn't end there, as Andrews drives on the scene, and Katie and Sloan manage to steal his car and drive back into town. Their first stop is a hardware store where they arm themselves, preparing for a vengeful confrontation. They also inquire with the cashier about Boris and the man with a blue truck, gathering intel about their whereabouts. Meanwhile, Jason's investigation continues on another front, and he visits the town's car insurance office, fabricating a story about a minor collision with a blue truck. He subtly probes for information about the truck's owner, inching closer to uncovering the truth behind Katie and Sloan's disappearance. The story takes a dramatic turn when Boris, the boss of the trafficking ring, arrives home unaware of the fate that awaits him. Katie and Sloan, now on a path of vengeance, have covertly followed him to his residence. They ambush Boris with a barrage of homemade weapons, and they inflict severe injuries. Boris then finds himself at the mercy of Katie and Sloan. Desperate to save his life, he pleads with them and even offers them money in exchange, but his pleas fall on deaf ears, and at this pivotal moment, Jason arrives outside Boris's house, but he is yet to grasp the full extent of what has transpired inside. Simultaneously, Katie and Sloan interrogate Boris, demanding to know the identity of the man wearing the pig mask. They then take a makeshift spear that they've crafted and brutally use it against Boris, leading to his eventual death. When Jason finally enters the house, he is confronted with the gruesome sight of a dying Boris and no sign of Katie and Sloan. As Jason processes the scene, the sound of car engines catches his attention and he rushes outside. Katie and Sloan were seen driving away while Jason was left to hurriedly transport the critically injured Boris to the hospital. In a subsequent scene, Sheriff Andrews informs Jason that Boris did not survive his injuries. Jason, increasingly concerned, tries to call Katie's phone, only to hear it ringing from inside Andrews' phone. Realizing that Andrews' involvement in the crime is now exposed, the sheriff draws his gun and the situation escalates. The narrative shifts to a church where Katie and Sloan arrive to confront the final perpetrator of their nightmare, apparently the pastor who is the man behind the pig mask and Sloan's rapist. In a dramatic confrontation inside the church, Sloan faces her attacker, and together with Katie, they overpower him. After leaving the church, Katie and Sloan make a stop, revealing that they have been towing the pastor, still chained to the truck. In a final act of retribution, they douse him in gasoline and set him ablaze before driving off, leaving their past behind in flames. However, Jason was now held captive by Andrews, setting the stage for yet another intense confrontation. In the final act of the movie, the plot takes a turn for the worst when it's revealed that Sheriff Andrews has captured two more young women, continuing his vile activities. However, Katie and Sloan, now enacting their own form of justice, arrive just in time to intervene. They overpower Andrews, restraining him and subjecting him to the same kind of torture that he had inflicted on others, and in a desperate plea, Andrews begins to apologize, but his remorse does nothing to deter character Katie, who delivers a lethal blow to his head, ending his reign of terror. Following this, Katie and Sloane liberate the two women and instruct them to free Jason, who had been held captive by Andrews. The narrative then shifts to the house of Jed and Lucas's mother, the next stop on Katie and Sloane's mission of vengeance. They manage to drug the mother somehow, and once she was incapacitated, they tie her up and take her to the basement. There, Jed was already bound and gagged, and in a gruesome scene, Katie and Sloane brutally beat him to death with baseball bats, forcing his mother to witness the horrifying act. The revenge spree continues as they confront Lucas, who was also tied up, but instead of beating him themselves, they untie him, hand him a bat, and coerce him into attacking his own mother. When Lucas refuses, they ruthlessly shoot him dead, and they then stage Lucas's body to make it appear as though he offed himself. In a last-ditch effort, the mother offers them money to spare her life, but mercy was not in Katie and Sloane's plan, and Katie mercilessly uses a lawnmower to kill her, concluding their brutal spree of revenge. And finally, the story concludes with a jump forward in time. Jason arrives at Katie's house to pick her up and Sloane, and he drops them off at the airport, where they excitedly proceed to New York City for their long-anticipated shopping trip, seemingly leaving behind the horrors that they endured and inflicted. I hope you guys enjoyed the recap. Make sure to leave me a like, leave a comment, also subscribe to my channel. I love you guys so much, and I promise to see you on my next recap. Bye!